Imagine in long ago, hidden beneath layers of sand in the Egyptian desert, a fragile manuscript lay forgotten. This ancient text, known as the Gospel of Judas, contained secrets powerful enough to rewrite history. The text revealed tales of treachery, selflessness, and truths so perilous that they remained hidden for almost 2 millennia. Judas Iscariot, long painted as the ultimate traitor, emerges not as a villain but as a figure burdened with a mission far greater than anyone imagined. He carried out a plan given to him by Jesus himself, a plan designed to shatter illusions and reveal hidden realities. The Gospel of Judas unveils a cosmic drama where the world is not the creation of a benevolent deity but the work of an impostor. This creator, described as foolish and bloodthirsty, crafted a world of pain and imperfection. According to the Gospel, the physical realm is a prison, a place where divine sparks are trapped in flesh, bound by the limitations of the material world. Judas understood this. He knew that the crucifixion was not a tragedy, but a necessity. By surrendering Jesus to his fate, he set in motion a plan to liberate the divine spirit from its earthly cage. Judas acted with knowledge that the other disciples lacked. The Gospel presents him as the only disciple who truly grasped the nature of Jesus' mission. The others worship the creator of the material world, believing him to be the true God. Their prayers, their rituals, and their hopes were all misdirected. Judas, however, possessed the secret knowledge that the world needed to escape its false reality. His betrayal was not driven by greed or malice, but by an understanding of a higher truth. The story within the Gospel portrays a world governed by deception. The so-called God who created humanity was a lesser being, a pretender who trapped souls in bodies of flesh. This being, known as Saklas, represents ignorance and arrogance. In contrast, the true divine realm exists beyond the reach of the material world. It is a place of pure spirit, untainted by the flaws of physical existence. The journey to this realm requires knowledge, gnosis, a deep understanding of the cosmic order and the forces at play. Judas's role in this story is one of profound importance. He becomes the catalyst for liberation, the figure who allows Jesus to shed his earthly form and return to the divine. The act of betrayal, viewed through this lens, transforms into an act of ultimate loyalty. Judas sacrifices his reputation, his legacy, and his place among the disciples to fulfill a purpose that transcends human understanding. His actions set the stage for a revelation that challenges the foundation of traditional beliefs. The Gospel suggests that the world will eventually collapse under the weight of its own imperfections. The material realm, governed by a false creator, is destined for destruction. Only those who possess the secret knowledge will transcend this fate. They will return to the divine realm, escaping the cycle of death and rebirth that binds ordinary souls. He, in his understanding and his sacrifice, stands as the first among these enlightened beings. This story paints a picture of a reality far more complex than the one commonly accepted. The distinction between good and evil blurs, and the roles of hero and villain shift. Judas, long condemned as the betrayer, emerges as the keeper of a profound secret. His actions, misunderstood and vilified, were part of a plan that extended beyond the concerns of the material world. The betrayal of Jesus becomes a pivotal moment, not of defeat, but of transcendence and liberation. Remember to join our community by subscribing to this channel. Betrayal is often seen as the ultimate act of disloyalty. It stings because it comes from those closest to us, friends, family, trusted allies. The betrayal of Jesus by Judas Iscariot is the source of this pain. The traditional story depicts Judas as a man who sold his teacher for a few pieces of silver. This explanation seems too simple. In the Gospel of Judas, his motivations take on a whole new meaning. Judas didn't betray Jesus for money or fame. His actions were driven by knowledge and purpose, something far more valuable and dangerous than silver. This lost gospel portrays him as someone who saw what the others couldn't. He recognized the divine truth hidden beneath layers of deception. Jesus confided in him, revealing a cosmic plan that required sacrifice. Judas knew that the world they lived in wasn't what it appeared to be. The material world was a cage crafted by a false creator, designed to imprison souls in flesh and suffering. To break free from this trap, something drastic had to occur. Judas's decision to turn Jesus over to the authorities wasn't fueled by betrayal, as we understand it. Instead, it was an act of painful necessity. Jesus needed to escape his human body. His spirit had to return to the divine realm, far from the corruption of the material world. He, understanding this truth, agreed to play the part that would forever brand him as the villain. This wasn't an easy choice. Judas had to bear the weight of eternal infamy. His name became synonymous with treachery, yet according to this alternative story, his actions were vital. Without Judas, the chain of events leading to Jesus' death and ultimately his liberation would never have begun. Judas sacrificed his reputation and legacy for a higher cause. Understanding Judas's motivation requires stepping into his world. Imagine holding knowledge so immense that no one around you can comprehend it. The other disciples followed Jesus but misunderstood his purpose. They believed in a worldly kingdom, in power and redemption within the material realm. Judas saw beyond that illusion. He understood that the real journey wasn't of the body, but of the soul. The betrayal, then, wasn't about ending a life, but freeing a spirit. Judas believed that by allowing Jesus to die, he was enabling him to break free from the prison of flesh. Death wasn't the end, it was the escape. The crucifixion became a doorway, a passage through which Jesus could ascend and reclaim his divine essence. Judas transforms from a greedy traitor into a tragic hero, burdened with the hardest role. His decision required immense courage. He knew he would be hated. He knew his name would become a curse. Yet, he moved forward because he believed in a truth greater than himself. The concept of betrayal is thus redefined. It isn't always an act of selfishness or cruelty. Sometimes it's the most painful form of loyalty. Judas remained faithful to a truth that others couldn't see. His betrayal wasn't a failure of character, but an acceptance of a responsibility too heavy for most to bear. This story, filled with mystery and adventure, started in the late 1970s when a group of treasure hunters stumbled upon an ancient tomb near El Minya, a city along the Nile River. What they found inside was more valuable than any gold or jewel, a fragile manuscript that would spark debates, ignite imaginations, and change the way some people viewed one of history's most infamous figures. Nobody found this precious document in perfect condition. It was far from perfect. The pages suffered severe damage after spending centuries buried in a cave. The papyrus sheets, fragile and brittle, had been exposed to heat, humidity, and the passage of time. Words were missing, sentences were incomplete, and entire sections crumbled with the slightest touch. For a while, it appeared as though the secrets tucked away in these ancient pages might vanish forever. However, the real danger wasn't just the damage caused by time. After the initial discovery, the manuscript fell into the wrong hands. It was passed from one collector to another, spending years locked away in a safety deposit box in New York. Imagine a treasure chest filled with knowledge, forgotten and gathering dust. For nearly 2 decades, the world remained unaware of this text's incredible potential. Restoration efforts began only after the manuscript was sold to a team of scholars and experts who understood its value. Restoring a 1,700-year-old document is no easy task. It required painstaking work, with scientists carefully piecing together fragments like a jigsaw puzzle. Every piece had to fit perfectly. Every word needed to be deciphered. The language, Coptic, was an ancient Egyptian tongue written with Greek letters. Translators spent years working to unlock its secrets. The restoration process wasn't just about gluing fragments together. Advanced technology came into play. High-resolution imaging allowed experts to see faint ink marks invisible to the naked eye. Carbon dating confirmed the manuscript's age, placing it between the 3rd and 4th centuries. With each passing year, the puzzle came closer to completion, and the story hidden in those fragile pages began to take shape. Finally, after years of hard work, the moment arrived. In 2006, the National Geographic Society made the text public, revealing it to the world for the first time. The announcement caused an immediate stir. Headlines declared that Judas Iscariot, the man blamed for betraying Jesus, might not have been the villain everyone believed him to be. For many, it was as if a new chapter of history had been unearthed. People everywhere were eager to learn how this ancient gospel could change our understanding of one of the most dramatic stories ever told. The public unveiling came with documentaries, books. Suddenly, the world's universities, churches, and living rooms began debating what had lain hidden in a cave for centuries. Rooms around the world. The story of the Gospel of Judas became a sensation, not just for religious scholars, but for anyone curious about history's biggest mysteries. Unlike the familiar accounts found in the Bible, this text suggested that Judas had a far more complicated role in Jesus' story. Instead of being portrayed as a simple traitor, Judas appeared as someone chosen by Jesus himself to carry out a necessary task. The Gospel hinted at a deeper, more spiritual understanding of Jesus' mission and Judas's part in it. While many were captivated by these revelations, others approached the findings with caution. The manuscript's poor condition meant that some parts of the story remained unclear. Missing sections left room for interpretation. Scholars debated the meaning of certain phrases and the intentions behind the text. The story of Judas and his so-called betrayal cannot be fully understood without exploring the fascinating world of Gnosticism. This belief system offers a radically different view of existence, divinity, and salvation. It sheds light on why Judas's actions, seen through a Gnostic lens, were not acts of treachery, but steps toward liberation. Gnosticism is all about knowledge, but not the kind learned from books or teachers. The Greek word gnosis means secret knowledge. According to Gnostic teachings, this hidden understanding reveals truths about the universe, humanity, and the divine. Only those who possess this wisdom can break free from the chains of the material world. It isn't enough to believe, one must know the cosmic truth. Are you enjoying the story? Support our channel by clicking the subscribe button. They believed that the physical world was flawed, even evil. It wasn't created by a supreme benevolent God, but by a lesser, ignorant being. This false creator, often referred to as Saklas or Yaldabaoth, made the material realm as a prison. Souls, which are fragments of divine light, were trapped in human bodies, forced to live in a corrupted world filled with pain and death. In this view, salvation means escaping the material world and returning to the realm of pure spirit. The only way out is through knowledge, understanding the true nature of reality and one's divine origin. In Gnostic thought, Jesus wasn't simply a human or a divine figure in human form. He was an emissary from the true divine realm, sent to deliver secret knowledge that could save souls. His death wasn't a sacrifice for sins, but an escape from the body. The crucifixion facilitated the return of the divine spirit within Jesus. Gnosticism also introduced the concept of the duality of existence. There is a stark division between the spiritual and the material. The spiritual is pure, eternal, and good. The material is flawed, temporary, and deceptive. The false creator tricked humanity into believing that the material world was the ultimate reality. Gnostic knowledge reveals this lie and shows the way back to the spiritual truth. This concept challenges traditional religious views. It suggests that suffering, death, and imperfection aren't part of a divine plan, but the result of a cosmic mistake. The material world wasn't meant to exist, and human souls were never meant to be trapped here. The path to salvation is a journey of awakening, realizing the truth and breaking free from the illusions of the material realm. For a long time, people wondered if the Gospel of Judas was real or just a clever forgery. After all, a book claiming that Judas was not a villain but a hero seemed too strange to be true. To settle this question, scientists turned to some of the most advanced tools available: carbon dating and expert analysis. Carbon dating works like a time machine for scientists. It tells how old something is by measuring the natural breakdown of carbon in ancient materials. When researchers tested the papyrus on which the Gospel was written, they found it dated back to the 3rd or 4th century, almost 1,700 years ago. This meant that the document wasn't a modern fake. It was genuinely ancient. But carbon dating wasn't the only test. Language experts studied the Coptic text, a language used in ancient Egypt, and confirmed that the writing style, the manuscript's ink and assembly method, aligned flawlessly with other texts from the same era. It's from the same era. After all these checks, scholars agreed: the Gospel of Judas is authentic. Just because it's old and real doesn't mean everyone agrees on its meaning or importance. Even though the manuscript is authentic, the Gospel of Judas is not part of the Bible. It is not recognized by the Catholic Church or by most Christian traditions. The answer lies in what makes a text canonical, that is, officially accepted as part of the Bible. For a book to be included, early church leaders believed it had to meet strict criteria. It had to be written by an apostle or someone close to Jesus, contain teachings that matched established Christian beliefs, and be widely used by Christian communities. The Gospel of Judas didn't meet these standards. Its ideas were too different, too challenging. It described a world where Judas wasn't the traitor, but someone who understood Jesus' deepest teachings. It suggested that the God who created the world wasn't the true God. These ideas clashed with everything the early church believed and taught. Because of this, the gospel was rejected. Church leaders decided it wasn't a trustworthy guide for faith. As a result, it wasn't included in the Bible and faded into obscurity for centuries. The rejection of the Gospel of Judas wasn't quiet. In the 2nd century, a bishop named Irenaeus of Lyon wrote a famous book called Against Heresies. In it, he listed beliefs he thought were dangerous and false. One of the texts he condemned was the Gospel of Judas. Irenaeus didn't mince words. He called the Gospel heretical, meaning it taught ideas that went against accepted Christian beliefs. For Irenaeus and others like him, the claim that Judas had done something good by betraying Jesus was outrageous. They believed that Judas was the worst kind of sinner, the one who led Jesus to his death. Because Irenaeus had a strong voice in the early church, his opinion mattered. His condemnation meant that the Gospel of Judas would be shunned and forgotten for nearly 1,800 years. When the Gospel of Judas was rediscovered in the 1970s and translated in the early 2000s, it shocked the world. Suddenly, people had access to a story that turned everything upside down. But this new version of the story came with questions and disagreements. The biggest debate today is about Judas himself. Some scholars believe the Gospel redeems Judas, portraying him as a loyal disciple who did what Jesus asked to fulfill a divine plan. According to this view, Judas's so-called betrayal wasn't an act of greed or evil. It was a courageous decision to help Jesus break free from the physical world. However, not everyone agrees. Other scholars argue that the Gospel actually portrays Judas negatively, showing him as a figure who sacrifices Jesus. In this interpretation, Judas is still a dark character, chosen because of his flawed nature. His role wasn't heroic, but necessary, a grim part of a larger cosmic story. This disagreement fuels modern controversies. Some see the Gospel of Judas as a text that offers redemption to history's greatest villain. Others view it as just another tale confirming his infamy. The truth might lie somewhere in between. The journey through the secrets of the Gospel of Judas offers more than a retelling of ancient events. It forces a re-examination of history, belief, and truth itself. This manuscript, long hidden beneath the sands of Egypt, this manuscript holds a story that challenges centuries of accepted wisdom. This manuscript presents Judas Iscariot not as a betrayer, but as a pivotal figure in a complex spiritual drama. His actions, long painted in the darkest shades, emerge with new meaning, raising questions about loyalty, destiny, and understanding. The discovery and restoration of this text reveal how fragile yet enduring history can be. For nearly 2 millennia, this manuscript lay forgotten, weathered by time and circumstance. Yet its survival shows that some truths, no matter how deeply buried, find their way back to the light. Its re-emergence suggests that knowledge cannot be permanently suppressed. The Gospel of Judas stands as proof that even the most uncomfortable ideas can endure, waiting for a moment when the world is ready to hear them. Throughout its pages, readers encounter concepts that turn conventional thinking upside down. The material world as a prison, salvation through knowledge, and the idea of a flawed creator introduce perspectives that many traditions would rather leave untouched. These notions unsettle, but that is their purpose. They ask readers to consider possibilities they might otherwise dismiss. They show the truth. They demonstrate that truth often lies not in the familiar or comfortable, but rather in the challenging and disruptive. What makes it particularly fascinating is how it reveals the diversity of early Christian thought. It paints a picture of a time when beliefs were not uniform, when various communities held differing understandings of Jesus' mission and message. The Gospel of Judas is a window into a world of debate and exploration, where ideas clashed, merged, and evolved. This reminder of a dynamic and living history underscores the importance of continually questioning and seeking. The figure of Judas, reinterpreted here, embodies the complexity of human experience. His story in this gospel transforms from a tale of betrayal into one of sacrifice and understanding. Judas becomes a Judas symbolizes the toll of knowledge, seeing what others cannot and feeling alone. The cost of playing a necessary role in a story is too profound for simple explanations. If you're enjoying this story, please click Super Thanks. You'll be helping us explore these fascinating stories together. The public unveiling of this gospel by the National Geographic Society opened the door to conversations that stretch beyond religious studies. It invites readers from all walks of life to engage with questions of morality, truth, and the nature of divinity. The impact of this ancient text is not confined to theological circles. It resonates wherever curiosity about the human story exists. This story leaves a lasting impression because it taps into something universal, the desire to understand the unknown. It compels readers to see that there is always more beneath the surface, always another layer waiting to be discovered. History is full of stories left untold, and every rediscovery reshapes what is thought to be known. The Gospel of Judas reminds us that the past is never complete. The Gospel of Judas reminds us that the past is always ongoing and will reveal more. Loyalty and betrayal, as well as the distinction between divine and flawed, are more complex than they initially appear. The Gospel of Judas teaches that understanding often requires the courage to see things differently, to accept that some stories defy easy conclusions. The manuscript's journey from a cave in Egypt to worldwide recognition symbolizes the resilience of ideas. Its survival through centuries of neglect and danger shows that some narratives persist because they demand to be heard. The manuscript's resilience amidst centuries of neglect and danger demonstrates that certain narratives endure because they clamor for attention. This is the enduring legacy of the Gospel of Judas, a reminder that the most profound revelations often come from the places least expected. Thanks for watching. Join our community by subscribing to this channel. Until the next video.